I love you, Cleveland, and I love you, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Great to have you aboard. I'm Bruce Drennan, along with Ryan Smith, my producer, and lots of good stuff planned for you. I was involved in an event this weekend that was absolutely fantastic. John Daly coming in for the second year in a row to the Lake Club at Poland, Ohio's Lake Club, right outside Boardman in Youngstown. Fundraiser for United Way, raising almost $200,000. Just a tremendously successful event run by some fabulous people. Bob Hannon, a broadcasting legend in the Youngstown area, now president of the United Way of Youngstown, will be joining us here in the opening segment. We'll bring him in just a little bit. Ryan, how you doing this week?
I'm doing very well, Bruce. I woke up this morning as a fan of the best record team in MLB, so I don't know how I can get better than that.
And we do want to start with the Guardians. Another classic win against a real quality playoff team, the Baltimore Orioles, a 10-8 slugfest. Jose Ramirez, Mr. Clutch, is he not? Oh, my goodness. 7 in a row now for the Guardians, and Jose 2 for 5 with an RBI double and his 21st home run of the year. He now has 72 RBIs. We're not even at the All-Star break. The Guardians pounded Baltimore pitching for 14 hits in this game, and Bo Naylor and Gabriel Arias each had 3 and had a double. Each of them had a double. The two combined for 4 RBIs. Meanwhile, starting pitcher Logan Allen struggled mightily again, going only 3 innings, giving up 6 earned runs on 9 hits and a walk. However, he did strike out 5. But once again, the pen was absolutely tremendous, going 6 innings, allowing only 2 runs on 7 hits, giving the offense time to mount a 5-run 4th inning and a 2-run 8th that proved to be the clincher. Now, this bullpen has been the best in the major leagues this year, but Allen and McKenzie have labored big time, and I'm concerned. You can't keep counting on them to be this great to keep it up if they are constantly called upon to save the day, working all those innings. Seems like every single night. McKenzie and Allen have struggled big time. I think that Antonetti and Chernoff, Ryan, have just got to add a starting pitcher, maybe 2. And this is in mind that Gavin Williams is close. He's slated to pitch tonight, his 6th rehab game at Columbus. He's coming off a 66-pitch Double-A Akron rehab game, which was on June 21st. But even with him appearing to be pretty close, I think that Antonetti and Chernoff have got to add 1 starter and maybe 2, dip into the minor league system, give some prospects. This year is an opportunity to get back to the World Series and maybe win it for the first time since 48. Let's get that monkey off our backs.
Bruce, it's not even a question at this point. If you do nothing at this trade deadline to boost what are clear holes, you're not only doing a disservice to the team, but you're doing a disservice to the fans as well, because this has been such a special season. And to be not even in July, and we're already at the 50-win mark, that is just absolutely incredible. And it is a glaring hole that our starting pitching is not close to being what it needs to be when we get to these later months in September. Tanner Bybee has been great this season, coming off his almost Rookie of the Year season. That's not a problem. He'll be your Game 1 starter, no question about it. Logan Allen, 3 innings, game before, 2 1/3. He's not been great. Tristan McKenzie has been an abomination this year, and I don't know if he's hurt and he needs surgery, shut him down. And
Thank God for Lively. God for Lively.
Ben Lively has been huge this year. And even when Gavin Williams comes back. How much can you count
on him, though, too? I mean, he's never been this good.
Exactly. And when you have Kevin Williams come back, that's great. But first of all, point A, you don't know how great he's going to be. This is a guy coming off an injury who has limited starts in the MLB. Then
could be like spring training for him, too.
So I need at least 1 starting pitcher. And like you said, yes, I would like 2, because when you get to these late months and you're potentially playing the Yankees, the Orioles again, 6-7 games, you need to have at least 4 guys, at least 4, that you know are going to go out there and give you 6 innings.
And keep this in mind. We tragically lost Shane Bieber after only 2 starts. And I mean, those 2 starts, He was absolutely brilliant. He looked absolutely as great in those 2 starts as he did when he won the Cy Young and contended for the Cy Young. And we lose him for the entire season. How tragic was that? Yet this bullpen, it's just amazing. So now the Guardians are 51-26, 25-17 on the road. That's very significant. The 7-game win streak is the longest current streak in the majors. And the 51-26 record is now the best in the major leagues, as Ryan said. Wow. Tonight, Carrasco versus Rodriguez for the sweep, then Kansas City for 4. And the Royals, if we take 3 out of 4 from them, I think they're eliminated. Because the math comes into play. You have to then, even as early as it is, I mean, we're not even at the All-Star break, as Ryan says, but you have to look at that loss column. And to make up all those games, I think is an insurmountable task if indeed the Guardians go into Kansas City. And they don't have to win 3 out of 4. That's the beauty of it. It just split. Even losing 3 out of 4 won't hurt them. But at 9 games out, Minnesota, and not even Kansas City. Kansas City's now 10 games behind, and they're in 3rd place in our division, with Minnesota 9 games behind. So they're in such a tremendous position. And I do indeed believe, even though, and Francona was partially, in a big way, I think, contributing to the way these managers manage the playoffs now. And they go to these bullpens so early in playoff games. It's almost like a designated bullpen game, which we do see from time to time by managers in the big leagues. But I don't want to wear out this bullpen. So again, the need, as Ryan and I are discussing here, about getting another starting pitcher, maybe 2, just to be inningsy. They don't have to be front of the line guys. Just get us into that 5th, 6th inning is all we need, and come playoff time too.
Yeah, I don't need a Garrett Crochet. I don't need Antonetti and Chernoff to go out here and make this glamorous move. I need guys, preferably 2, as we mentioned, that are going to come in here and eat innings, because Logan Allen hasn't done that this year. Tristan McKenzie certainly hasn't done that this year. The only ones are Tanner Bybee, and like you said, Ben Lively's been great, but how far along the road can you count on him to keep this up?
They're really such a fun team to watch. They remind me so much of an old-style National League ball club. They run the bases well. They play great defense. This bullpen is absolutely the best in baseball. Clase he's got 25 saves, for God's sakes. We're not even at the All-Star break. I mean, my goodness. And they thrive on each other. I mean, and what I also like what Vogt is doing, he's not necessarily designated this guy for the 7th inning, this guy for the 8th. The only one that's designated is Clase to close out the game. But he's using all these guys in the bullpen in different innings. I think that's very healthy, Ryan.
I think it is too, and even outside of the pitching, I mean, you're seeing consistent rotations between Rocchio and Arias. You're seeing consistent rotations between Will Brennan, who's been great as of late when he's come in here and play, right, Tyler Freeman, and then just et cetera, et cetera. And that's going to be huge when you get down the path, when you get to these late games, these late playoff series. These guys have been in the moment before, and they've delivered. Now they got the confidence to do it again when it matters most.
Well, as I mentioned, Carrasco's on the hill tonight. Let's see if he can equal that performance coming off his last game where he was brilliant. And but you can't really count on Cookie, because he's at a stage of his career going through everything that he's gone through. I compliment the heck out of him for being able to contribute as much as he has. But again, another reason why I think Antonetti and Chernoff need to add another pitcher. All right, we're going to bring in my buddy Bob Hannon from this great event out in Youngstown over the weekend. A legend in the Youngstown area in broadcasting, Bob Hannon, who former sports director at WYTV from 1988 to 2008, play-by-play voice of the Youngstown State University football team for many, many years, and for quite a few years now is the president of the United Way of Youngstown, so involved in raising money for such a worthwhile cause as we did over the weekend. Bob, great to have you on the show. How you doing, pal?
Bruce, I'm doing well. We had to recover. Last night we had another event with Archie Griffin in town. So we had 3 great days. And Bruce, always good to have you here. I thought Sunday and Monday was extraordinary. The questions, you only had a few minutes with John, but I thought it was spot on. And The Mahoning Valley, as you know, steps up for charity and nonprofit. We try to bring in some entertainment value, which I think we did Sunday. And it's great to have you a part of this.
Yeah, and I've been a part of it now for quite a few years, and I love coming out there to Mahoning Valley because it's such a great treat to wonderful people and friendships that I've developed throughout all these decades. And as a matter of fact, I'll be coming back for the Youngstown State Baseball fundraiser in August. This was an event that John Daly, the tremendous worldwide known golfer, comes in for, and he actually, it's because of our buddy Leo Henry that persuaded him to come, and he fell in love with it so much last year. He said, "I'll come every year," and he was actually competing in a seniors event in Endicott, New York, and he was in contention until, as he said, the final round on Sunday. We were worried he wouldn't be able to come to the fundraiser, which was Sunday night, and he had an 8 on the very first hole, so he said, "I was screwed." So I was totally out of it. But he is just so entertaining, and he brings so much to the enthusiasm of people wanting to donate, and I can't say enough about him. And as I said on stage, Bob, the thing that struck me last year and the same thing this year, and here's something for the fans watching to realize. John Daly, every single person that came up to him for an autograph or a picture, I mean to the person, "What's your name? You married? Got any kids? What do you do for a living?" He showed human interest in every single person that came up to him.
Well, I think you nailed it. And I think that's why he works here, John Daly, that he took time, he cares, he showed some interest in you. Another good example, where you were golfing, Bruce, on Monday, our YSU football coach, Doug Phillips, met him. And, at Youngstown State, we're always trying to get a money game. We're trying to get that big game to help us with our costs. He called the athletic director at Arkansas and said, "I know it doesn't work geographically, but I'm in Youngstown, Ohio. Can we ever consider playing Youngstown State?" And the AD took the call. Will it happen? Probably not. But he took the call from John. He said, "We'll reach out. We'll have a discussion." So that's what John Daly does. The other thing, Bruce, so great about John, he comes in and he'll ad lib a golf trip for United Way. We raised $40,000 on one auction item. John, off the cuff, said, "I would take 2 foursomes to Nashville. We'll play it at a course that's as good as you're going to find. 4 guys will play 9. Another 4 will play 9. Each group ended up paying $20,000. So next April, John's going to play 9 holes of golf with 2 foursomes and raise money for United Way.
Yeah, and last year he volunteered to take 20 people to his home in Arkansas, play his course, which he says it's not much of a golf course, but John Daly's standards, it's probably got to be a very good golf course. I was actually supposed to go. Things came up and it fell through on my end, but as it turned out, it was disappointing because it rained all weekend anyway, so they weren't able to play golf. But just think of it, inviting people to his home in Arkansas.
Yeah, and it rained on that trip, so there wasn't much golf. But John entertained everyone at his home. He brought in his entertainer, Jocko. He had his brother there. So the guys that went on the trip all said they enjoyed it. John made them feel comfortable. He's personable. I don't know if John Daly plays everywhere, but he plays in Youngstown. He's blue collar. He's tough. He's hard-nosed, and that's what Youngstown people want. And to have a fundraiser, and you mentioned Leo Henry, who's the name most people won't know. This guy works tirelessly for us. Last year, we raised $190,000. This year, we'll raise about $170,000. To do that in Youngstown, Ohio, and we have other events that we do, tells you the quality of the event. And as you know, being at the Lake Club, and Bruce, I got to tell you, if people, they know you in Youngstown. But if you didn't know Bruce Drennan, you would have thought he grew up in Youngstown, lived in Youngstown his whole life, because you fit here. You are one of us, and they love you here. And it's just it's a great 2 days, and it works.
And, getting back to John Daly, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. And the feeling is mutual, as you know. But getting back to Daly, he says that coming to Youngstown to the Lake Club, which is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. I mean, Ed Moransky, the former Super Bowl champion lineman for the Raiders when they beat the Redskins when Joe Gibbs was coach of Washington. He went to Cardinal Mooney, All-State, and he went to Michigan, played for Schembechler, was All-American, won a Rose Bowl. Ed is the owner of the Lake Club. And Daly actually says that this weekend, this event, is the most relaxed that he is all year long, Bob.
Yeah, how about that? He comes here from the minute he got off his RV last year, he felt comfortable. He felt at home. Last year, Bruce, he was supposed to leave Monday night. He stayed until Tuesday morning. He felt so comfortable and relaxed. He liked the people. He said, these are my kind of people. It doesn't feel like a stuffy country club. It feels like home. It feels like I belong. Ed Moransky, you mentioned, and John stay in contact throughout the year. We try to go up to Akron. Last year, we went up to Akron to watch him play. I think we're going to do it again. If John plays, we'll take a group up and spend some time just as a way to thank John Daly. Ed Moransky's a special person. In the Mahoning Valley, he's just, we have some great people here. The DeBartolos in New York who own the 49ers. Ed Moransky, very charitable, very giving. Ed was a terrific player at Mooney, and his one flaw, he went to Michigan instead of Ohio State, but that's okay. We forgive him for that, Bruce.
Hey, look me up at Firestone, because I told John that I would be seeing him there. We're actually going to be taking our show on the road and be doing Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network on that Thursday of that seniors event coming up at Firestone. So looking forward to that. But all in all, what a fabulous week. By the way, I want to acknowledge the group that you put me with. Great guys. A guy, Coviello, who's the president and CEO of the Youngstown Warren Chamber of Commerce. Also, Justin Freilich, family roofing business. Everybody in Youngstown knows him. And Bruce Stubbs, who flies in from Florida every year, originally from Youngstown, works for Honeywell. And great guys. We had a ball. And if you're interested next year, contact the people like Bob, Leo Henry, people at the Lake Club, because this is really quite an event, once in a lifetime event for a lot of people that have never experienced the course, the people, and of course, John Daly.
Bruce, it's not your typical golf outing, as you know. It's a party on the golf course. We have 36 teams. There's food stations, and fortunately, though, we're still able to get you through in about 5 hours. So if you're an avid golfer, it works. If you're just a recreational golfer, you can have fun. We've got different stations set up throughout the day. And we have a waiting list of teams. We don't want to go above 36. We think we can manage it in 5 hours at 36 teams. And you did have a good group. Those are all good people here in Youngstown. And Bruce, every year, you're right, lives in Florida, says, I'm coming in. I got to be part of this. So I want to see John, and I want to support Leo Henry, and it's good to come back to the Lake Club.
Yeah, and as Bob mentioned earlier, they had another fundraiser last night at the Lake Club. Archie Griffin was coming up. How'd you do there? How much money did you raise for that one?
We're going to end up at about $150,000 last night.
Beautiful.
Bruce, when I left the TV business in 2009 to come to United Way, I wanted to do a large fundraiser that was sports themed. And we've been blessed. We've had Jack Nicklaus and Annika Sorenstam one night. We've had Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman, Jim Tressel, the Stoops brothers, Kirk Herbstreit. What's amazing, Bruce, we haven't paid one speaker to come in. And it's really Jim Tressel or people that are connected that can bring these people in for us. And that's that was our signature fundraiser for years until Leo started doing this golf outing. Archie was great last night. I said, all your accomplishments, Archie, 31 straight games, 100 yards rushing, an NCAA record, Ohio State's all-time rushing record. What's the number one thing you're most proud of? Before I could finish the sentence, he said, I never lost to Michigan. So that for him was the number one accomplishment in his career.
Well, Ryan Day can't say that, and he
You're
better
right.
win. He better win this year, or it's adios, senor. Bob, I can't thank you enough for everything. I look forward to the next event. I'll be seeing you in August, I'm sure, for that Youngstown State baseball fundraiser. But again, congratulations! Just a triumphant weekend in raising money for such a worthwhile cause, pal.
Before I let you go, we always enjoy having you here. We've talked in the past about maybe playing some other courses in the Valley. Let's connect. If we can make that happen this summer, let's do it. If not, I'll see you at the YSU baseball outing, Bruce.
Bob Hannon, the one and only, of course, great broadcaster and now president of United Way of Youngstown. All right, back in a minute. Matt Fontana will take a look at the Cavs' new head coach and also analyze the upcoming draft on Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Now, here is the risk that Brown had to take with. All right, great to have you back. Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. And as we said in the first segment starting the show, wanted to devote this entire second segment to the NBA, the Cavaliers hiring their coach, and also with the NBA draft upon us. And who better to get his thoughts on both these topics than my colleague and pal for years now, Matt Fontana. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Bruce. I'm excited for tonight. You know, I think it's not the fifth pick. It's not the first overall pick. But tonight, I think, is going to map out what the Cavs need to do this offseason. Are they drafting somebody to replace Jared Allen or Darius Garland if they want to move on from them? Are they taking a player to package in a trade with those guys? Are they drafting somebody that they see being a part of their team and a piece to move forward? Like, I'm intrigued. I love it. You know me in the draft. I love mock drafts. I love getting ready. We got the Guardians right around the corner with their draft too. So I love it. I'm really excited for it tonight.
Well, before we get to the draft, I want to talk about this hiring of Ken Atkinson, the former head coach at Brooklyn and assistant with several teams, including the Golden State Warriors. I have been saying persistently that, okay, you can get into the X's and O's, Matt, with Bickerstaff, the criticizing, second-guessing his rotations. But the first half of the season, Garland was hurt and Mobley was hurt, and then Mitchell got hurt in the second, and they ascended in that first half to the number 2 seed. Then Mitchell got hurt, and they fell back as they did to number 4, which fine. And they also achieved more than last year's team. They got over the hurdle, as struggle as it was with Orlando, by winning that first round, and they fire Bickerstaff. All that being said, my bottom line is, you can bring back Red Auerbach, Pat Riley, and Phil Jackson, and until they drastically change this roster, this team, as it is made up right now, is not going to win the East. Am I wrong?
No. This is a players' league, and I will always take good players over a good coach. There's only so much you can do with a sub, and it's not a subpar roster, but Bruce, that's a second-round playoff type of roster. So you make this move, and some people want to get hung up on, JB Bickerstaff and Kenny Atkinson, they're the same coach. And I go, that's fine, but you needed to make a change. You had to make a change. If this team,
was this Mitchell?
When you got guys coming out saying I didn't like the sets he was running, and he lost the locker room, so yeah, probably, and I'm okay with that. I want Donovan Mitchell to
then
stay.
Again, does the front office weigh the fact that Mitchell hasn't given them a guarantee that he's going to stay in Cleveland?
Right, they're operating that he's going to come back, which sounds like he's going to, and I hope he does. But
but these players are so fickle. They say one thing one day, and then the next day and he's a New York product.
Yeah, well, that's done now. Especially now that they get Mikal Bridges there with the Knicks. That Knicks dream is over. He's not going to play for the Knicks, at least not in the next 5 years. So he sits there. He probably weighs this. And with someone I was talked about with Donovan Mitchell was, it's almost like a head coach. There's only 30 of these teams, right? So for you to say that I am the guy and this is my team, there's only a few of those opportunities for you out there. And you've got a decent roster. You've got an owner that's not afraid to spend. You've got some upside with some of the players around you. This is probably Donovan Mitchell's best case scenario. Now what happens is he signs the extension, which I think he will. And even if it goes bad, he's just going to get traded then. And he'll say, okay, I gave you 2 more years. Development of Evan Mobley, this pick, this coach, all that. Doesn't work in 2 years. He'll just get traded to the Suns or the Lakers or wherever else he wants to go. So I think that's why, for him, the intrigue to see what this roster could be for a couple of years. I've never had a problem with him having a seat at the table of discussing who the head coach should be, or even to a point about, do you keep Jared Allen? Do you move on from Darius Garland?
Well, let me stop you there. Do you move on from Jared Allen? Garland's in that mix too.
Right.
I mean, if they make a trade, okay, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Sure.
I mean, how is that drastically changed? They're not improving upon what they have. You're replacing with what they have. And again, I get down to, unless they're incredibly lucky in a trade, how do they win the East? Especially with Boston now appearing like they have another dynasty.
And especially no team is going to help you out, right? No team's going to sit there and go, oh, yeah, we'll get fleeced in this trade. They don't have draft picks to trade. They don't have much salary cap space. That's why I think, again, the draft tonight of who they pick, it's going to be a piece for something. So we'll see. But you're a little
but
limited.
At number 20.
Right. No, what are you going to do? Right. In a weak draft, by the way.
Baseball's
In a
the
weak
one
draft.
where you can really, I mean, you can get a 19th, 20th round pick, and the guy could turn out to be a Hall of Famer.
Well, they're talking about the Orioles. They took Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson in the same draft because there's money involved that you don't want to pay this guy. They can fall down. The Guardians are dealing with that with the first overall pick, but that's another conversation for another day.
But you know the point I'm making here. In the NBA, that's not the case.
You're lucky to see 1 second-round pick in a decade turn out to something.
Yeah, Boozer was one, wasn't he?
Boozer, like Draymond Green, a lot of people. Obviously, Jokic is probably the best example of a second-round pick that's ascended to be an MVP and a great player and all that. So yeah, who Cavs pick, it's kind of, I don't say academic, but it's like who they pick, what they use with it. I think for Donovan Mitchell, you got to sell him on Evan Mobley's going to be something. He's going to have to elevate. That comes back to Kenny Atkinson's hire. Is he going to help Evan Mobley become the player everybody wants him to? Then Mitchell fitting in. Do you have Garland, who now all of a sudden, I guess, is rescinding the trade? I don't want to go anywhere now. That came out this morning from Zach Lowe that apparently he's all good with staying in Cleveland now. Do you work with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen? We've seen that. It's like this combination of those four guys. Mitchell and Mobley are going to be here. Is it Allen with them? Is it Garland with them? What works with that? Is it all four? What does Kenny Atkinson think? I mean, there's so much on Kobe Altman's plate.
Thought it was exposed. The Cavs were exposed 2 years ago against the New York Knicks for not being physical enough.
Right.
And so, and they certainly didn't have as I said here with Ryan on the show, you cannot in the NBA playoffs win with 4 against 9.
Yeah.
Which I figured that was the way I analyzed that series with the Knicks. But so what did Kobe Altman do? He went out and he got a better bench. He added a couple of pieces, but that's still, these are peripheral players. These are not marquee players, frontline players. So my point about all of this is to build upon what they have. I think the biggest need for them is to get an enforcer like you have in hockey.
Or
that's the big, because they are just simply, even Orlando, they were not physical enough to catch.
You hope that it was Tristan Thompson. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. If Jared Allen has a mindset change, but that's not something, Bruce, you go to somebody and go, hey, get tougher, or change who you are with that. And then I also think about the three-point shooting, which they want to do more of, and some of the guys in the draft that'll be around 20 are intriguing with how well they shoot the threes, so we'll see how that goes. And then you ask yourself, if you do want to do that, which is, again, with the Garland thing, I think I try to connect all these dots, right? So if Garland's coming out now and saying, well, wait a minute, I actually might want to stay, it comes back to, I think, what Kenny Atkinson wants to do. Kenny Atkinson is a pace guy.
He's an offensive coach.
He's an offensive guy. And when he was in Brooklyn, he took a team that was in the bottom 10 of the league for pace and got them up, I think, to like 7 or 8 one year. And last year, the Cavs 22nd in pace. So it's very close about, I think, what Kenny Atkinson wants to change. Jared Allen is not a pace guy. He's not.
Yeah.
Darius Garland is. So I wonder if they sat down and they said, hey, Darius, I know you might think that this Mitchell and you might not work, but what we want to do here, you actually are a type of guy that we need to have around here. When healthy, when he just puts this atrocious year behind him. I get it. Broke the jaw, lost the weight, not the same. But if he's back to that all-star level, you can run a pace that Kenny Atkinson might want to do here in Cleveland. And again, you come back to the draft pick that they will eventually make tonight or move or whatever. Can you bring in a three-point shooter? What exactly do you want to do with that?
So let's go to the draft.
Yeah.
At 20, I've got about 10 names that they could feasibly get at that pick. I guess the number one guy might be this Missy, 6'11" center from Baylor.
He's very interesting to me, Bruce. So Yves Missy, before he got to Baylor, only had 4 years of organized basketball. When you watch him play, he looks like Evan Mobley. He's really tall. He's pretty skinny. He can ball handle a little bit. He doesn't have an outside game at this point, but he's a little offshoot of what Evan Mobley is. So if you like that upside and that intrigue of, again, a young guy who's not played a lot of basketball but has a lot of physical tools, that could be an option there with him. So I think he's
so. Would that lead you to believe that he would replace Allen and they'd move Allen?
I think if you got Missy, you talk about Ware out of Indiana, to a point, Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. Those are all big 4, maybe 5 guys. You draft them, then I'm starting to be on Jared Allen alert to say that you would move him out. The other thing I just can't shake, and we'll probably bring it up with quite a few of these guys, do you make a draft pick that entices another team for a trade? You know, if you know that you're end up going to be trading Jared Allen, then you take a guard. Because you don't want to trade 2 centers or 2 big men. If you know Jared Allen's getting moved, you take a guard, Bub Carrington, another guy, move them. Or you know you're trading Darius Garland, you draft Kyle Filipowski, or you draft Yves Missy to combo those 2 guys and move on.
Oh, who do you like between Carrington, who's 6'4", out of Pitt?
Yeah.
The USC kid, Collier. He's 6'3". He's a point guard. And then Kolick, the 6'2" point guard out of Marquette. Who do you like?
I would probably take Carrington, but a lot of things now, Bruce, I'm seeing that he might not be there for the Cavs at 20. Like, he's a little bit of a high riser here. The biggest thing on him, he's the youngest guy. He was the youngest guy in college basketball last year. You see the explosiveness. You see the playmaking ability. So Carrington would probably be my pick there of those guys.
Of those big guys. Missy from Baylor. Ware from Indiana, who's 7 even. He's a center. He's a natural center. And Filipowski, the 6'11" center from Duke.
I mean, again, upside, I like Missy. I'd be okay with Filipowski. Where he's probably last on my list on that. So probably that order. I would probably say Missy, then Filipowski, then Ware. You know, another guy that was in a mock we did today that just came out this morning, Tristan De Silva, who's out of Colorado. He's 6'9". He shot 40% from behind the arc last year. So he's not a true 4, but he could be more of a tall 3, could shoot a little bit. That's a name that I've seen kind of circled around, you know, where the Cavs are at. And then Zach Edey, right? Probably won't be there at this point. Now everything kind of has him getting pushed up in the draft, top 15 maybe.
I looked this morning, but I've been amazed all along that Edey was projected in these mock drafts as low as he has.
Right. That he started so low. And I think this season, when he started his season at Purdue, people thought he was a 2nd-round pick. They said his footwork was garbage. He needed to work on his offensive game. Well, he did that this year. So now they're like, okay, he's now worked his way into the 1st round. But 20s. And then I think as the workout process went on, he went to that draft combine. He's doing these private workouts. It just keeps sliding up because it's hard to not see a 7'4" frame. And again, he's not Wemby. He's not moving like that. Right. But you see that frame, you get some intrigue. And I do think the other thing about this draft, everybody says it's kind of a weak draft. So if it's a weak draft, go with a guy as something you can't teach. Go with something that you can try to grab onto and say, we'll work with this. We'll try to turn him into something, because there aren't these explosive, amazing players out here, at least at that point. 15. I think there's going to be some good players in that top 5. You know, you got the kid out of France, you got the Australian kid, Sarr, Connect is there, Stephon Castle, Dalton Connect. There's some names there that really kind of, Donovan Clingan. But outside of that, why not take a swing on somebody that you can't teach 7'4"? He's
well. They were saying during the tournament that Edey would probably be a real good backup in the NBA.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't think that's an unfair projection about him, considering all that's required of the NBA from these big guys in this modern day of the National Basketball Association, where they got to be able to ball handle and preferably shoot from 3-point range too.
They got to have some range to their game, and it's something you talk about to kind of tie back to Kenny Atkinson. One of the things we were reading this week about, he changed 2 guys in his career from being just post majority of their shots within 10 feet to 3-point shooters. He did it with Al Horford in Atlanta, and he did it with Brook Lopez. He took both these guys, and again, he was an assistant in Atlanta when he was head coach in Brooklyn. Both those guys had him. I think Lopez was like 98% of his shots came from within 10 feet. Like, he never left that post. And eventually he started becoming a 3-point shooter. Look at Al Horford. We just saw him throughout the whole playoffs
Yeah.
in Boston. He took him as a guy that shot a majority of inside to a mid-range outside game. You hope that with Evan Mobley for something else, for some hope with the Cavs.
Well, and Mobley, you can talk about getting him more physical by putting on weight. You don't want to necessarly do that.
He messed up some of his other games.
He is who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I say they got to bring in an enforcer above and beyond whoever they pick in this draft. I mean, you can find those type of play, the Oakley types.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Looking at the top, is it a foregone conclusion? This kid from France, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name.
I struggle with his name all the time, too. So, yeah.
Yeah, is it a foregone conclusion Atlanta's going to take him?
I read some things about the Hawks who've been guarded or trying to go between him and Alex Sarr, the other kid. That when this all started, Sarr was the pick.
The other kid from France.
Yeah. So
7-1 center.
Yeah. So that one of them, I think Sarr played in Australia. He is French, but I think he played in Australia for a lot of it. But yeah, it's between those two guys. It does seem like it's the
What
other
do you
one.
make of this? All of a sudden, we're seeing
all these Euros. I think one of the things that I read a lot about was that they just do their basketball differently, where these guys are playing pro basketball at 16. They're allowed to go play pro basketball. Like Luka Doncic was playing in pro leagues over there. And, of course, the NBA, you just got to be 1 year removed from high school. So it's just different now. I think they tried that with the G League and trying to get some of those guys, but now we know that's changing a lot. So I think, stateside, they tried to change it, but I just really think the Euros, it's more about.
Well, there's
two
two guys projected in the top 10 from that G League. This Holland from San Francisco, the small forward, 6'7". He's from the G League, and then the other one is this. I
know, same thing. I can't do.
I don't know.
He's got a tough one. Yeah.
Detroit is projected to get him from the G League. He's a 6'8" small forward.
Yeah,
but. Klingland is an interesting. Two guys from Connecticut should go high. Obviously, Castle and Klingland from the national champions.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to like when you look at your guards. If you're going to be a little undersized, and I'm not saying Stephon Castle is, but are you seeing the ball handling? Are you seeing everybody wants to shoot now? Everybody in the NBA, the advanced stats tell you the swing in the NBA is shoot threes. You're better off shooting threes. Yes, you can make it two that's more apt to be able to help you out, but the stats tell you you're better off taking threes and hitting threes at a high rate.
It's amazing how this game has changed because of it. You spit it outside to a 3-point range, you penetrate as deep as you can in the paint, and then you feed it outside to a wide open shot for the 3-pointer. It's almost like the medium range jump shot is extinct.
I mean, the way that you kind of look at it is, you go down, you have your 4 offensive possessions, and you hit 2 threes versus 3 out of 4 from the paint. You're in the same place.
Yes.
So you're better off just shooting your threes and trying to make those.
Totally
and it's refereed different now.
Yeah.
It's just so different from that standpoint. And I also
Bill
think
Walton just passed away, and Jerry West is another one that just passed. Totally different game during both. And, of course, West was way before Walton. But both played in a totally different era than what the NBA is today.
Well, and I think it's a lot of what do these kids like to do? They like to shoot. They grow up and that's what they want to do.
The dunk shot and the 3-point shot is what it is.
Everybody works on their shot. And I think it's also a way that you see a lot of these kids. Like Anthony Davis is probably the best example that I have. He started high school as a point guard. He started high school as like a 6'2" point guard. He grew almost 10 inches, and now he's got a point guard skill set while being the size of a center. That and you dream about Wembanyama, right? When they knew that he was growing up and being the size that he was going to be at, he had coaches teaching him to dribble like a guard. They said, you can't dribble the ball up here. You got to keep it down. You're going to get it stolen left and right. So he plays like a guard at 7'2" or 7'4" or whatever he is. I mean, it's insane.
Speaking of Anthony Davis, what are the Lakers going to do? I mean, not only is it pertaining to Davis, is he a fit for that team? And now Bronny, LeBron's son, there's talk that he's going to be joining his dad.
I think he'll eventually make his way to the Lakers one way or another. I mean, JJ Redick, who that press conference was abysmal from him the other day, too. Like, I don't know who he's trying to rile up or who he's trying to prove or this or that.
I didn't see it. What happened?
So he got very defensive. People would ask him questions about, do you want to dispel any rumors or dispel things about you? Because we all have these ideas or these preconceived notions. Like, he's coming from the media. What does he know as head coach? He started dropping F-bombs and saying, like, I don't care about that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, fine. If you want to set that to a side, but it's still a reality. it's still, you've never done this before. Yeah, you've been a player, you've been in the media. Then he started taking shots at the media, and it's like, you just got out of the media. Like, whatever. I don't know. Like, he came off like he was trying to be a hard ass and try to set a line here, but it's like, okay, if you really want to win the press conference, try your best, but he didn't. So, like, you got a new coach.
Better win from the get-go, then.
Well, what's he got, 2 years to prove something? That's it. LeBron, he's there to win another championship for LeBron. He's got 2 years to do that.
Yeah.
I think, too. It was probably it. But, the roster's not constructed great. Did they get rid of D'Angelo Russell? It pretty much is LeBron and Anthony Davis. They still don't have a guard there. They're really kind of constricted on what they can do.
What do you think of this kid from Kentucky, this Reed Shepherd?
So he's obviously very high. Rob Dillingham's another one, too, that are there. Shepherd, I've seen him a lot slotted at 6, a lot in like that 6 to 8 range. Dalton Connect right there, too. And there's reports the Cavs might try to move up. I don't know if they can get in the top 10, but I actually think Reed Shepherd would be
How
a
can
really
they
good.
do that?
Well, so the reports out now are that they're talking to a lot of teams with second-round picks. So they could move back, get a couple of multiple second-round picks. If they want to move forward, that would be a Darius Garland trade. I saw there was one that Bleacher Report put out. It was Garland and the 20th pick to send it to, I think it was the Spurs. And you got 2 players back and the 4th overall pick. And again, would you make that move?
Well,
then you're staring down the barrels, Castle and Connect and all that.
Here's the other thing to consider, Matt. If they were to make such a move with a Garland, now you have to allow for a certain amount. Not everybody's going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate.
Right.
Now you have to allow for the developmental stage of a rookie coming in, which, what does that mean? You're sacrificing the upcoming season after they have just accomplished not only the playoffs for the second year in a row, but a first-round victory? Because anything less than that, and you got to think, well, my goodness, they're regressing.
Yeah, and that's the balance of last year. Was it good enough or not? Like, I think about Orlando, right? Orlando's over the moon. They made the playoffs. They win 7 games against us. They're feeling really good about their team.
Absolutely, as they should.
Right. We get bounced in the second round, and we go, this sucks, and this isn't good enough. When you make changes, it obviously can go either way. It could go good or go bad. Cavs are going to make a change. We hope for the good, but to your point, Bruce, right on, this could go bad. The setup that you thought worked about, again, I'm just conditioned they're going to trade somebody. I'm conditioned that it's going to be Allen or Garland. One of them is going to get traded. Well, you then upset the establishment. You change what did work at points last year. You got to find a new way. That could go bad. This guy you draft, again, if they actually use him, we debated this morning. Bruce, I'll ask you, do you think who they pick tonight ever actually plays for the Cavs?
Yeah.
I don't know. They could trade somebody, or they could draft somebody that is an appeasement to another team.
Yeah,
they could steal somebody and say, hey, we'll trade you to him,
Great point. Here's the other thing. You're not going to get any big-name free agents to come to Cleveland.
You don't have room.
They couldn't do it when they had LeBron James.
Right.
LeBron James was trying to influence guys to come to Cleveland, and they wouldn't come when he was here. And I'm talking about the second time he was here, not when he was a kid the first time before he bolted and went to Miami. I'm talking the second time. Kevin Love came through Griff's trade with Minnesota, and Irving was already here. They couldn't lure another big name for you, and certainly not now.
Well, and they tried, like they were, they brought him up, but it is the cap space now in this new CBA with these new aprons. It becomes you penalize so much. You can't have 3 max guys, and that's the other thing. The Cavs are staring down that barrel. Evan Mobley's rookie extension max eligible. We'll sign that. Donovan Mitchell's going to sign a max veteran extension, and you have Darius Garland already on a max. Now, these aren't super maxes, but you are at a point where that's, again, why I thought Garland would be gone. You can't keep all 3 of these guys in your team. You get to a tax apron that Dan Gilbert doesn't care about spending the money. But then you don't get mid-level exceptions. You get really hurt on being able to fill out the rest of your roster. So the best thing in where the NBA is going, you get 2 guys. You pick your 2 horses that you feel like are the guys for us, and then you fill out the rest of the way from there. Cavs, who are your 2 guys? Well, I would assume Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Those are your 2 guys. Everybody else, find your spot. Fill it on in and see what you can do. That's the tough thing. That's where the Cavs are at right now.
Well, we shall see. We shall see. Keep your fingers crossed, because I just can't help but be a little pessimistic about this. Actually, quite pessimistic. I just don't see it. I just don't see the immediate future. I can't see in the immediate future how they can win the Eastern Conference.
Again, you talk about Boston, they're not changing, they're not going anywhere. The only good thing is and again, I know the Knicks made a nice trade this week. Like, they really seem to be the second best team in the East. But you've got issues in Philly, you've got issues in Milwaukee. I don't think Indiana's really ready to go. Miami's almost on a rebuild here. So it is open, but you're threading a needle here. You are trying to thread a needle right here without a lot of picks, without a lot of cap space to keep your star player happy, but then build a team around him that's going to be successful.
And the East is a lot better now than it was when LeBron was here the second time.
Sure, yeah,
it's
I would
more
agree with that.
balanced than it was when LeBron
now
was
the
here
West
the
is
second time.
just stacked. Like, if we were in the West, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now. So thank God we're not. So
well, the 5th seed made it to the finals.
Right, that's true. And there can be a lot of parity that happens in the finals or in the playoffs, and that's the sort of thing. Cavs just can't make the playoffs anymore. Every year it's been a little bit of a step forward. You made the first round, okay, now you made the second round.
Right.
I'm not resetting that because Kenny Atkinson's here. I'm not resetting that if they trade away Darius Garland or Jared Allen. Right. I need the Eastern Conference Finals. I have to have that this season. What do you do?
Absolutely.
What do you do to get there?
Well, that's what I've been saying about the Browns. I said the clock, I say the clock is ticking pertaining to the contract. This is the 3rd year of the 5-year contract.
Yeah.
And what Watson, the pressure of the world is going to be upon Watson this year because he must exceed what Flacco accomplished, which means winning that first-round game at the very least.
Yeah.
Because now you're into the 4th year. Because very few times do you get to the Super Bowl unless you have playoff experience. Well, they've got their feet wet, even though they shouldn't have lost to Houston. They did. But they've got to exceed what Watson's got to exceed what Flacco accomplished. And quite frankly, this is such a tough division, Matt. I mean, Burrow's back and healthy, and they drafted to protect him even more. Baltimore's going to be playing with a chip on their shoulders because of Kansas City embarrassing them. And Pittsburgh was making the playoffs with no quarterbacks. Now they've got 2.
Yeah, it is going to be hard, and that's after this season. You're going to have your decision on Deshaun Watson. They're going to extend him to spread the money out more, or they're going to cut him. That's it. So you have your decision. It's laid out. You've got all your pieces. They got to figure out Amari Cooper. But it's the same thing. It's the progression, right? Where you finally have entered, and the same thing with the Cavs. You're finally back to, and the Guardians certainly are there, you are in a competitive part of your franchise, right? Yeah. The best franchises, the dynasties, they somehow avoid the rebuilds, right? Where, the Patriots were good for 20 years. Now look at them, right? It's cyclical. Sports are always cyclical, where you get to the top, you build it up with draft picks and your rookies and your coach and your play, but eventually you do have to pay the piper. Yes. And eventually you fall back down the other side of that mountain. The Browns are there. Guardians are there. Cavs are there. But you're not guaranteed to win anything, right? You just have entered the conversation.
Guardians have to make a couple of moves here come deadline
time.
They have to. I talked about that in the first segment because obviously, as fabulous as this bullpen is, you've got to be a little concerned about that starting rotation. Matt, I want to thank you as always, partner. Good
Appreciate
stuff
you,
as always. Check out Matt Fontana's show here on the Big Play Sports Network daily, and we will be back in a moment with the Ask Bruce segment here on Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Now here is the risk that the Browns had to take with All right, back. Bonus time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Bob Hannon, an institution in the Youngstown area. Quite an John Daly. Ryan, he is everything as advertised and more.
I can only imagine it's a party, it's a blast, and obviously I've never met him before, but the way you talked to Bob about how just personable he is and how involved he wants to be with everybody that he comes across, I mean, that says a lot about a person.
And he's very tell it like it is, and he did a shot. The ninth hole is a par 3, 166 yards. He got up there, took one practice swing, put it this far away from the cup.
I believe it.
Unbelievable.
That's what greats do.
Unbelievable. He is looking forward to playing in the British Open. He won 2 majors. He won a PGA, and he won the British Open at St. Andrews, and he adores St. Andrews. Now, the British Open this year is at Royal Troon, but he loves that kind of golf where you hit low-line drives, let it bounce, let it roll. So I look forward to seeing him in the British, and hopefully he can make the cut. All right, it's the Ask Bruce segment. Fire away, Ryan. Ryan.
Already, Bruce. First one again comes from our guy Andy. It says, "Hey Bruce, do you think Cleveland Guardians hitting coach Chris Valaika, will get consideration for a manager's job at the end of this season?"
Usually they try to rob teams that have great success of their pitching coaches and batting coaches. It wouldn't surprise me at all, especially considering that we, just the last couple of years, I mean, boy, do we need bats? Do we need power? I think one of the most interesting and fascinating things about this team, none of us could have guessed that this team would be supplying this kind of power this year. I think it's surprising everybody and raising eyebrows around the majors.
Alrighty, next one. Hey, Bruce, due to preseason expectations for the Guards this season, in your opinion, is winning the AL Central enough to qualify this as a successful season?
Oh, yeah, because anything can happen in the playoffs. Look at Texas last year. I mean, they got hot at the right time. That's always the case. I'll even give you a great example of our Cleveland franchise. Back in 1997, that team only finished, 11 games above 500? But they got hot at the right time in August, and they carried that into the playoffs and made it to the 10th inning of the 7th game of the World Series against the Marlins. So, yeah, I mean, you can't ever predict what's going to happen in the postseason because of the expanded playoffs with the wild cards now. Anything can happen. A team that gets hot at the right time, that's no longer American League champion versus National League champion with 100 victories, and we've seen that too. Who would have thought in 1990 that the Cincinnati Reds would sweep that juggernaut Oakland A's team with Canseco and McGuire and Ricky Henderson and Stewart and that crew. Same thing going way back in 1963. The great New York Yankees with Mantle, Maris, Berra were swept by an upstart Los Angeles Dodgers team who had a couple of pitchers by the name of Koufax and Drysdale. You just never know when the playoffs occur. The team that's the hottest usually succeeds.
Alrighty, hey Bruce, with the way the roster currently stands for the Guardians, do you think they truly have a shot at beating the Yankees in a playoff series for the AL pennant?
No question about it. I mean, we've defeated the Yankees and other teams, Boston, when we have gotten into the playoffs, when they have sported better records than what we did during the regular season. Again, it's a whole new season once you get in. The thing is getting in. Now, preferably you want to win your division so you can get some home games, but the majority of your home games, but the key is getting in.
All righty, last one for you. Hey, Bruce, almost halfway through the season, what have you noticed most about Stephen Vogt's managerial style, and have you noticed anything similar or different to Terry Francona?
Well, I think he consults Carl Willis just as much as he should as Francona did. That's a key. But we've already touched upon it. He's not afraid to use these relief pitchers in different roles. It's not the same guy working the 7th inning and it's the same guy working the 8th inning. He flip-flops them around. The only guy that he doesn't is Class A. And as Ryan said, he does the same thing with the lineup from day to day. I like that. And I think the players like it too.
Alrighty, I actually missed once here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, last one here. I missed it. Oops, sorry. All right, here we go. Although the award is usually never given to a closer, do you think Emmanuel Clase deserves serious consideration for the Cy Young Award?
There have been Cy Young winners. Lee Smith was a Cy Young winner. There's been a couple of others. I think Raleigh Fingers or Eckersley won one year. I'd have to double check that. But yeah, we have had Cy Young winners who have been relievers. Hernandez of Detroit is a guy that won it at one year in the past. So certainly it's feasible if he keeps up this pace. My goodness gracious, he's just been overwhelming. And I remember when we made the trade to get him from Texas, he said, not only does he want to be an everyday closer, but he wants to be the best closer in the majors. Well, he's achieved that, hasn't he?
He sure has.
Goodness. Wow. That's all the time we have for this week's version. Bonus time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hope you enjoyed the show. Look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, this is Bruce Drennan. On behalf of Ryan Smith, you have a good one. And as always, most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio. And